Let's talk about resources in Godot. I'm assuming if you clicked on this video, you already use Godot and you already kind of know what resources are, but you don't really. There's some maybe you know a little bit about them, but you want to know the secrets. You want to know the hidden, the forbidden knowledge. Well, I'm gonna teach you. Just hold on. I'm gonna get started. Don't be too impatient. Um, so I think probably the most common type of resource everybody's going to be familiar with is the texture resource. There's a lot of other types, but basically, anytime you have a little picker over here that you expand and it gives you all these options to do new, these are all resources. So this is a texture resource. Normal map is also a texture resource. Um, and you can add them in a couple different ways. You might be most familiar with the drag and drop method. So let me go find something. Here we go. Here's my little edit icon that I made. So you can grab a PNG and you can drag it over here, and then you have a resource. There it is. So this has been imported. You can click on it, and then you get to see some information. So that's on a very basic level. There's tons and tons of types. Anything that is a file, Godot reads as a resource. So images, PNGs, audio files, even scenes and scripts are resources. They're a little bit different, but like every single thing that is a file in the file system, Godot loads as a resource. You can also create resources in a scene, and those are not files yet, but you can always save resources as files. So here's another type of resource, material. Material is also a resource. It says you open it up and it says new. That is a canvas item material. This is a resource. You can save a material. There it is, new canvas item material. Hit save. Now we have this down here. And double click on it. You can see all the stats. And this kind of thing is exactly the same thing that you're going to have down here. You can see like mix, normal, particles, animation on. And just like that PNG we created, I have this canvas item material. I can go in and create another node 2D or a sprite. Sprite. And I have the material. I can use this resource just like the PNG. I can click and drag, drop it in there, and then I have this one. Now they're going to be sharing that canvas item. So that's just some background on what resources are on a very basic level. So you see, we created this one here. It wasn't a file yet, but we saved it. So that's kind of the two ways that resources get attached to nodes. So there's that way to create resources. There's so many more resources, and I'm going to show you how you can look at them all. The other way to create them, if you don't have a PNG or you don't know the node, like let's say I want to create a material, but I don't have a node that I want to attach it to. I just want to make it and keep it separate and not use it yet. You right click over here in the file system tab, and you can go down to new resource and click on it. And this shows you every resource that Godot has built in. So 3D shapes, 2D shapes for colliders. They're not just for colliders though. These shapes can be used for just drawing rectangles. They can be used for a lot of other things. Occluders for hiding things that aren't, whatever you want to hide in your mesh or whatever. And then there's shaders. There's lots of things. There's way more than this. I don't know why it's oh, okay. Yeah, we have I'm searching on shape, but here we go. textures, animated texture, animation node, blends, audio effects. There's the shapes, curves. I think this is something, I don't know what that is. Input events. Even the key inputs that you type, that creates a resource. The Godot engine creates a resource and sends it to the input callback. Like if you are doing a little character controller, the thing you're checking that says is key pressed, that is a resource that you're getting a value out of. Meshes, there's shader. I wonder if there's something in here. Yes. Guess what? Scenes are also resources. It's a little bit complicated, but like the scene file, it's a file, right? Godot treats every type of file as a resource. So packed scene is a resource, and then you bring it in here, and then you add nodes to it. But that's stored as a resource on the file system. Styles, visual scripts, world 2D. So that's everything. That's all of Godot's resources. You can also make your own custom resources, but we'll get into that a little bit later. There's one more way to make resources. You can click up here in the inspector node, create a new resource in memory, and edit it. So this doesn't make a file. This is just gonna put it in the editor so you can mess with it. So like, let's say I want to make an audio bus. That's not a good example because it doesn't really do anything on its own. Shader material. We're going to make a shader. The shader itself is also a resource. So at this point, we haven't actually created a shader file or anything yet. It's just in memory. If we want to save it, you can click up here on the Save Currently Edited Resource. You can save. If you don't have a file yet, it'll save as. So new shader TRES, you'll see that. TRES, that means resource. And then you can also save as to make a new one if you want to change it and not overwrite the first one, or you can hit save to just overwrite, because we do what? Shader type. Don't worry about the shader stuff. If you're not familiar with shaders, don't worry about it. I'm just using this as an example. Then I save it. I can go in here and I can hit save, and that just overwrites the one that I got. And you can see in here, any kind of resource has these stats, and you can see here, path. If you have saved it, this shows you where the file is saved. Then you can attach scripts to anything. You can attach scripts to resources too. If you have created one, other than dragging it in like that, you can go down here and hit load, and you can pick it, or quick load automatically shows you the types of resource that are allowed. So that's really nice. Like, we only have a couple different types of shaders, materials, so it filters it down, and then you don't have to go search through every single file you have. So that's really nice. But Godot treats those different ways. There are a couple of different ways that looks in the back end, and it affects the way that resources operate very significantly. And I think a lot of people get confused when that starts to happen. So I'm going to clear all that up for you right now. Have you ever wondered why the extension is TSCN and TRES? People use that a lot. There's also SCN and RES. You don't have to put the T on the beginning. You know what the T stands for? The T stands for text. What does that mean? That means that these are stored, these files are not binaries, they are text files that have all the definitions for the scene and the resource. You can also leave the T off and then it's a binary, but as long as it has a T on it, it's a text file. And you can just go and open it in your text editor of choice, and you can see all the information about it. So here is our sprite node. This is our scene, resource example, resourceexample.tscene. We can see these two external resource path, canvas item material tres, and the edit.png. I haven't saved it. I hit save. Yeah, I got rid of those resources, and I saved, and they're gone. And then we can also go look. That's a T scene. The new canvas item material, that is also a resource that is just made out of text. We can go open it up, and we can say, we can give it some, I don't know what this does, particles. It just showed up. There it is. All of the changes we made show up in the file immediately. So that's why they're called tres and tscene. And that is significant. That means if you're having a problem with these, go look at this. Go figure out, maybe it's a problem with the file. You can go and look at this has nothing to do with resources, but you can go in here and look at these scenes as files. It is really helpful. Like, let's make another node. Let's make a nested sprite down here. Save it. There's our sprite. That's another node. See, this is the root one. So then it just tracks each node that exists, and this tells you that the parent is, get the path. The parent is, it's the root of the scene. So yeah, that's so helpful. If you ever start getting a bunch of errors, that looking at the text can really help. And it especially helps for resources, and I'm going to show you why. I am reading a lot of this off a script, just full transparency. It's a lot to keep an old duder's head. Oh, this is my resource script. You see my other script. So this is a prerequisite video for another video that you might like even more than this one. We'll see. We'll see how you feel about it. Put a link at the end. All right. So we've covered how to make resources. We have gone over looking at the scene files. There's one last thing you got to know about that causes a lot of the problems people have, I think. And we're not going to use a sprite anymore. We're going to use we're going to change type. We're going to make this into a kinematic body. So people do these kinematic bodies all the time. Okay, so we're going to add a collision shape. Collision shape 2D. And you'll know if you've made a character at all that moves around and collides, you got to add a collision shape, and collision shapes have to have a shape resource. So we're going to add people use capsules a lot, right? Capsules are good. So here it is. We have created a capsule shape. Save. Let's go out here. Before we get too far, we're going to demonstrate the way that Godot handles stuff in the background. Remember I mentioned that the way you load them does make a difference, and it can cause you problems. It can be really helpful, but it can be really confusing and hard at the same time. So we're going to make another one. We're going to add exactly the same collision shape 2D. And instead of going in here and hitting new, we're going to do one the second way. We're going to do new resource. Capsule shape 2D. New capsule shape 2D. Sure. There's our new capsule shape. Now we're going to go in here, we're going to do quick load, and we're going to pick the capsule shape. Hit save, we're going to make our scene. File load resource example. Done. Okay, so by all external views, this looks exactly the same, right? Like from the editor, you can't really see a difference. But let's see, are they actually the same if we go and look at the text? This is the resource example. See, we have a collision shape 2D, shape sub-resource 1. So the sub-resource refers to this up here, sub-resource ID 1. So this is saying the sub-resource is here, and what type it is, it's a capsule shape 2D. It doesn't have any data on it because we have left it with the defaults. So let's go make some changes. Get a big radius. Let's get. I'll make it the same so that we can see really big. Such a big capsule. Okay. Save that. And now it has showed up. So these are the properties. These are the overrides. And you can tell when something is an override because it'll have this little swirly arrow. And then if you hit that, it'll go back. And then that'll be deleted. So, but we do want it to be 20 right now. Okay. So you can see in our resource example, in the tscene file, we have this little sub-resource up here that refers to this node. Over here, I'm going to change the name of this just to loaded. Okay, so over here in this collision shape 2D, we have this new capsule shape 2D. Let's set it, same thing. Now let's go look at the file load resource example. Whoa, that is different. Look at that. We still have a sub-resource. No, we don't have a sub-resource. External resource. It refers to the file instead of, like, the resource example, sub-resource. It is not referring to any file. This is all contained within the scene itself. So what does this mean? This means if we go down here, okay. So you edit this in here. If we go down here and we open this capsule up, even if we're not in this scene at all, file load resource example, we can open this capsule up and we can change it. We can change this to 202, and we have a big giant. We hit, oh, we don't even have to save it. No, that's not what I wanted. This is the scene. I want to open this one up. Okay, so this is the new capsule shape 2D. Okay, let's make this big. Doesn't change anything. Hit save, save. So now, where's our new capsule shape? Here's the resource file. So now you see this capsule shape has changed. Radius 200, height 200. And even though this scene was not even open, we didn't change anything here, this resource has changed because it's referring to the file. You can also see that. See when I hover over it, it says res. And then if you hover over this one, it does nothing. Another way you can see that is if you click resource. This refers to the file. This one gives you the name of the scene it's in and then the resource index or resource ID that you can see in this here, ID. So the way this is formatted, it's showing with the file system, the place it's stored in the file system is in the scene itself. That's what makes it a sub-resource. So that's another way to see it. So now you know. So that's huge, right? You learned something? Hope you learned something. You better learn. That's why I'm here. I'm here to help you learn. this has implications. Big implications. Let's say we make another file, make another scene. We use a static body. We add a collision shape. We go here and we take our same capsule shape. Save. Okay. Static body resource example. Okay, so we've gone in here. This is our static body. We made it. We want it to be a little smaller. We want a capsule, so we already have a capsule, right? We want this static body to be a little smaller. Whoops! Changed it everywhere. Everywhere that this same capsule shape gets used, it will be changed. Every single scene, because as you remember, the static body is also just referring to an external file. It is not referring to doesn't have its own data in here. When you go in here and you change it, if you're referring to a resource file, this is changing a second different file. So you can't just treat this as though it were in the scene. There are a couple ways to get around this if you do want to do that. 2 ways specifically that I know of. First, you have this local to scene that all resources have. What is this? We have a capsule. Resource local to scene equals true. What this doesn't mean is that they are not shared. It is still shared if you change this here. It will still change the file, and these will still be affected. What it will keep separate is, no, we have to instance. Okay, we're instancing, what are they called? Static body resource example and file load resource example. Yes. Okay. So here we have both of our guys. This is the static body. This is the kinematic body. They're both using the same shape. We can't actually change this unless we do. Let's just do editable children so we can go look at this. Now, oh, no 2D. Okay. Local to scene example to scene. Now they're independent when they're local. When they are editable children, they don't have to be editable children. But if you go in with a script and you change the size of this, they won't be tied together. Their parents, their originals, are still tied together. The thing is, if you go in here and you hit reset, if you reset the whole resource, it'll take it back to its parent settings. Hitting this reset will set it back to Godot's default because it's using the same file. But the thing is, this shared resource gets modified if you have local to scene on. It automatically creates a local one, local to scene example T scene. You see how see, it's using the file, and then as soon as you change it, if it's local to scene, what's going on here? Oh, what happened? There it goes. I don't know why that wasn't working for a minute. Okay, so we have that the same. If we change this, so this is a little hairy. Oops. It's a little bit finicky, but you can make changes here, local to scene. It'll override the fact that you have changed a resource that does belong to a parent, and it'll create a local instance. And we can go and see that. Oops. Come on, man. There we go. We can go and see that in the, what are we calling this? Local to scene example. Yes. Okay. So this one, so you see we have these two scenes. Remember what I said? Scenes are resources. This is also, this scene, local to scene example, the way that you instance your resources, it is also looking at the path of the T scene. And then, so now, this scene, the file load resource example, is still using the, so as soon as we do editable children, it is still using the parent's capsule shape. And you can see that. You can see that here. The plain node 2D, which is the static body, is using the, it's an instance of scene ID2. It is still referring to the parent's collision shape. The file load resource example, which is the kinematic body that we have modified here, this is the kinematic body. This has created its own instance here as a sub-resource. And you can see that because this name collision shape index 0 sub-resource 1 parent is loaded. So this knows this is a sub-resource 1 here, and it belongs to this. The collision shape is the node, right? And then the resource is belonging to the collision shape, and then the collision shape is belonging to the instance of the scene we created, which you can tell here. That's the instance of the scene. So that is one way to keep stuff separate. It can get kind of hairy like that, like, you know, still kind of confusing which type it's using. So I reset this shape, and now it's back. There's no more sub-resource. It's going back to using the same one from the scene. Okay, there's a second way. We have, let's make a duplicate. We will duplicate our static body resource example, because this one is using static body resource example 2. I have duplicated this. They're still using the same new capsule shape 2D res. I should like make this different so you can kind of modulate. It doesn't look red though. Make it green. Okay, the static body resource example is green. Number 2 is blue. They're both using the same file. Both using this capsule shape 2D T-res, and you can see it there. You can see it there. Let's say we want to get it totally separate. We don't ever want it to be inheriting anything. What you can do is go to new capsule shape 2D and do make unique. So this has created a totally new one. It is totally separate. Right now it's in memory. It has not been saved yet. It's the equivalent of going up here and creating a new one, and applying it here without saving it to a file. If we hit save on this, it's creating a local sub-resource. We can go out here and look at the example 2, and we can see it's created a sub-resource. If we then go in here and we hit save, static body resource example 2, let's say resource example 2, shape 2D. I don't know. I'm not going to be consistent with my names. I can't pay that much attention. Okay, so we've saved it. There it is. It's now changed it into a file. So yeah, the make unique. That basically has the same effect as duplicating something. So those are the two ways to split it up. Sometimes changing shapes like this, sometimes doing that and then getting it to change here. Sometimes you want that. That can be good, you know. Like if you have a bunch of enemies and they have their bodies, and every single enemy you have, you always want it to be the same shape of its body. Yeah, you want this to be the same. But if you make like let's say you make a base bullet type, and then you make a bunch of inherited scenes that are all different types of bullets, like there's a really fast one or big one or whatever, you're in a little twin stick shooter or something. You don't want them all to be the same. You want some of them to get big and some of them to be small. That would be a good time to use local to scene, because you want them to share some things, but you want them to you want to be able to make them unique. But you don't really want to create, like, you don't want to separate them from their parent totally. So that's a time to use local to scene. If you want to totally duplicate it, that's more like if you were making a bullet and you wanted to you have a lot of stuff in the bullet that's like about attacking, and you want to turn the bullet into a sword. You want to make another different type of weapon, but it's going to be a totally new scene. That's a time where if you duplicate your and you say this is going to be a sword. If you just duplicate it and make a sword, you've separated it. It's not inherited. It doesn't have any of the other, like, changing this one won't change this at all. But changing that capsule will still change this capsule, because it duplicated the fact that it's using that same file. So that is a case where you want to totally separate it. You want to go in here and you want to make unique. And now your sword has its own hitbox. So yeah, I hope that clears some things up. Another thing you can do with resources that is very powerful, you can make your own custom resources. You can go into a script and you can make a new script, create. Let's just make it. Hello world. Save. Class name. Okay. So here, this is how you create your own resource. Now you can just go in and new resource. My new resource. There it is. What did I save it as? There it is. Just like a shape, works just the same. You can do all your stuff with it. You can use it. You can use it in your scripts. You have to write a script that knows how to use it because, none of Godot's built-in shapes. But something else you can do. Check this out. No, collision, no. Rectangle shape 2D. New resource. My new rectangle. I have now created a type of rectangle that adds some data. Oops. I can go down here. This is a rectangle, just like any other rectangle. But I've added my special custom properties to it. You can do this with any resource. Whatever type of resource you use, it'll show up. Again, you have to write a script to do something with this data. You can't just you can change it. And then it's in here. Just like before. No different. The things you can do with Godot, right? It's magic. Hope you got something out of this. Next one's going to be about animations. Animations are also resources. Really helps to understand this stuff, to understand animations really, really deeply. So, until next time.